Hi there, I'm Katrina Van Huss, and today I'm joined by Adrian O'Flynn from Ireland. He is an expert in social media fundraising. Adrian founded his company, GYSS, and was the first guy to support a Facebook fundraising challenge. Actually, he'll tell the story, but the fundraising challenge was named by one of his participants. What we're going to talk about today are potential changes in the US in regard to the Facebook fundraising endeavor. Nonprofits in the US are experiencing a lot of fear and confusion about Facebook fundraising. What if, for example, Facebook pulls the plug on processing donations in the same way that they did in many parts of Europe? What happens then? Adrian has the answer for that. He has experience, he's already lived through it, and he's going to help us in this moment. So here we go. Enjoy. What I'd love to do first is have you explain what happened in Europe, and then convey that knowledge or cross the pond over to the US and help us understand what we can expect. So talk about you and your company first, who you are, where you came from, which is quite an interesting story.
Okay, thank you very much, Katrina. Yeah, so we have a digital agency based in Dublin, Ireland. We only work with charities on campaigns where we're trying to recruit people from social media, ultimately to become fundraisers for our charities. Personally, I used to work for the biggest charity in Ireland in-house, really struggled with acquisition. Even with the biggest brand in the country, the biggest database, big agencies, big budgets, I still found it really difficult to have, a profitable ROI and run a good campaign, a good acquisition campaign anywhere digitally. Left that role sort of disillusioned, went freelancing for a few years, tried everything, tried a lot of things, and eventually sort of managed to scrape together enough learnings that I tried something that worked. And that was the first Facebook challenge, using lead ads in groups, the kind of model that has been popularized since across the world and has raised billions. So a lot of failure and unenjoyable meetings with people who were sad because we didn't have enough money led to a breakthrough that's raised billions. And really, we spent the last 6 years sort of harnessing that breakthrough, learning more about this area, figuring out, trying to improve things, and trying to really now diversify.
Yeah.
So look, that's our background.
Well, impressive. I have to share a story of my own. I was on the phone with Adrian and with a US technology vendor recently, and they were going on and on about the very first Facebook challenge they had seen, and how magnificent it was. And Adrian's nodding, just nodding. And they're like, wow, it was just so amazing. And then he said, yeah, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And there was a moment, I think, of like, oh, yeah, and you are that guy. You were the first Facebook challenge person.
Yeah, and we used to call them month-long virtual events or something. And then a
Mhm.
woman in the group just like said, finally a Facebook challenge that suits me. That lady actually she came up with the name Facebook Challenge, and we've called them Facebook Challenges since.
I love
Uh,
it.
but really, it was about 5 or 6 different breakthroughs. It was learning something about how automated emails work for events. It was learning that Facebook lead ads can work. Um, and really, it was all about making it easy for people to do something they already want to do. So,
Yeah.
who wants to get fitter? They want to be better at swimming. They want to be able to squat more. Whatever it is, you tap into that motivation, and then you make it easy for them to actually do the challenge, engage with other people, and raise some money.
Right.
And I think a lot of the time, my experience in the past, you guys have some good platforms in the US, but in the UK and Ireland, a lot of the problems were the websites. It was the user experience when you got from like the busy social news feed. It was generally a fairly crappy desktop focused website experience. And that was the real blocker. And all Facebook really did was bring their user experience people who were amazing in. We sort of hacked the tools they already had for fundraising and for
Mhm.
ads and for groups, and just made a journey that was simple.
So, and the website you're referring to there is not the organization's primary website, but the third party donation processing website. Is that correct?
Either,
Either.
sometimes some charities still try to run, yes, the third party platforms are a big part of it from a peer-to-peer point of view. But even my experience before I ever did events, so many good campaigns where I got traffic, I got people who were interested, and I just couldn't get them to complete the form because it was like 2016, 2017,
Yeah.
2018. Mobile was coming in, people didn't know what to do with landing pages. And all of that has really moved forward.
Okay. So I don't want to bury the lead here. So I want to ask you this question and let you answer it ever how you want. Should we in the US be afraid of Facebook stopping donation processing and Facebook fundraising?
From what I can establish, from people who've spoken to people high up in Facebook and told me the situation is fairly stable at the moment. They've made a change that they're happy with. They've saved themselves a lot of time and effort, moving everything to PayPal. And I don't think they're going to make any changes soon. But, this is a big corporate with millions of stakeholders. They have to keep happy. And
Yeah.
if they have a bad year next year, who knows what they'll do. Um, Previously, the reason they made this change is because they had a bad year in 2023 and they had their year of efficiency. And one of the changes was, spending less time on social fundraising.
Adrian, can you tell me what this chart means and what it means in relation to the changes that happened in your country in regard to Facebook fundraising?
So we have this is our figures with our clients in the UK and Ireland. In blue, you've got Facebook income, and in yellow, you've got income through a website, for want of a better word, a website. So it's both third-party platforms, and we have one client who actually raises money on their own platform, which is unusual. Um, but it's all web-based, and you can
Yeah.
see as we went through 2021, Facebook fundraising was thriving. We had a lot of income, particularly around COVID, very successful. Um, but as we've gone through the last few years, we've started to do more and more fundraising via websites. So in many cases, we're still using Facebook groups. We still have people in a community. But when they get to the group, we ask them to fundraise on a web platform. So it could be, Just Giving or any of this third-party platforms you have in the US. And
Yeah.
what we found is people still are happy to fundraise in those places, and certain audiences prefer it.
So Facebook stopped processing donations in Ireland, in much of the UK. What date?
This was in 2023.
2023. So this
They
trend
made
already started.
Well, we made this change ourselves because we saw certain user groups wanted it. And when Facebook pulled the tools in Ireland, so they announced it this year in 2024. They just removed them in Ireland and Europe in July completely from all charities. But
In 2023 or 2024?
in 2024,
2024.
um,
Okay, from all charities.
from all charities and our clients in Ireland who love Facebook fundraising, who want to keep doing it, they've had to move.
Yeah.
And it actually happened sort of suddenly on a Thursday evening with no warning. There was a notification that went out and said we're ending this.
Wow.
And that was it. So it was scary, but I think the point with this graph is we were already testing things. We hadn't stuck with the same proven model, the same journeys. We'd already been trying different ways of fundraising. So when that change came, we were able to say, well, actually, we've got another model that works here via websites. We went to our clients and said, you should use this third-party platform. Here's what the landing page should look like. Here's what the journey should look like. And actually, our biggest client this month, September, with their first challenge, they made more money via the website than they expected, than they would have made on Facebook.
So you mentioned that some of your user groups had seemed to want to transition to the third-party platform instead of Facebook. What was that about? Who were they?
It's actually a really simple point, it's younger people who Facebook is no longer where their community is. Specifically under 40s, maybe in the US under 45s.
Yeah.
When we first started making this change, we were surprised that some of our clients performed better, and they were the children's hospitals. One client we called Young Lives versus Cancer. They focus on young people. The organizations who had naturally younger audiences actually did better. I think men also prefer a simple journey. You get your fundraiser, you share it whenever you want, rather than you must join this group with thousands of people and then you must do a Facebook fundraiser. So they're the standout audiences, but there's been quite a few audiences who prefer it.
Got it. So in the way back when Facebook and promoting one's fundraising as an individual on Facebook was a bright, shiny new idea, um, we would post our link to our third-party platform on Facebook, and then that would draw the donation to the third-party platform. This is different because you're overlaying the challenge element, right? We haven't gone back to the way we used to do it because of the challenge element. Is that correct?
Um, in some cases, we're still using the group and we're driving them to the group first.
Okay.
So that's what's different. We do have some audiences who we really are gone back to the old days, except we just have better, we've learned more about what kind of journey they want, what matters to them. They want it to be really clean and clear, and we've just kind of
Mhm.
worked with third-party platforms that allow us to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say and this is something we weren't thinking about previous to 2024. There are different audiences, and you need to have different journeys for them. So the Facebook challenges was one journey, and it worked particularly well for, to be honest, women in their 40s, 50s. There's lots of men who don't want to join a group with thousands of women for a month.
I
Um,
understand that, but go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and we're starting to what we're talking about is audience first. We're saying you have to understand your audience, who they are. If you're a prostate cancer charity, then maybe you should look at this differently and design a journey that your audience want. Not just pick a challenge they want, but give them a journey and a platform that they want and that suits them.
Yeah. How do the other social media platforms play into this conversation?
Essentially, we've been a big part of what we've been doing all along is testing some budget on Instagram from around here. If you look at this 2021 stat,
Hmm.
it's pretty much all driven by Instagram. Um, we've always spent about 90% of our budget with Facebook ads and about 10% with Instagram. And the reason for that, I think, was we saw there was people on Instagram who wanted to do these challenges. They didn't want to join the groups. They never really converted to Facebook fundraising. So we started to look for other journeys, and that's what led us to some of this website income in 2021. Um, Instagram is a strong performer. It's just a smaller platform than Facebook. You can't spend quite as much money on there. But we've done lots of profitable Instagram challenges. Recently, we've had some breakthroughs with TikTok. It's been a bit more difficult. It's taken time to find video that worked and really find a journey that worked, but it is a promising platform, particularly with those younger audiences, as you might expect. You're almost waiting for that audience to mature, that platform to mature a little bit, but it's definitely coming, and you're going to hear a lot more about it in the next few years, even with the US stuff. And the other one we've been using is X. So there are audiences who really use Twitter or X, male audiences in particular, who love that platform. And I know it's a controversial platform, but there is particularly a male audience in there who are very, very interested in sports. And we've signed them up for running challenges, push-ups challenges really successfully.
So when you sign them up for a challenge in X, there's no, how comparable is the functionality to Facebook for people more familiar with Facebook?
The ads platform is different.
Mhm.
X works really differently. Instagram and TikTok Instagram is quite similar to Facebook. It's the same company. TikTok have tried their best to copy Facebook ads, and it
Ah,
tried their best to be similar to it. So if you know Facebook ads, you could almost find your way around TikTok just by knowing Facebook. But X is really different, and it requires a really different approach.
got
Uh,
it.
yeah.
So if you were counseling a US client, it seems like you are telling us that number one, we don't need to be fearful of Facebook, but we need to be prepared or even plan with a third-party platform for processing donations versus doing it on Facebook. Yes.
Yes, I think an excellent starting point for who's completely reliant on Facebook and Facebook ads would be do an Instagram challenge, run it alongside a big proven Facebook one, and just drive some budget to a third party platform. Maybe spend 5 grand on Instagram on ads from Instagram and start learning about that, start learning how the platform works, how the journey works.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
So I didn't prep you with this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. We've been talking a lot about content creation and how our market serves content creators. Can
Yeah.
you talk about that from your experience?
So when you say content creators, you mean influencers, people who have following?
Um, Well, the conversation that's bubbling up now is looking at influencers, but at scale. And by at scale, I mean we've sort of lost touch in the US with our people who will leverage their social capital. You know, we called them team captains in the past, and they would do it at church and on the soccer field. They do it everywhere. But now we've lost them, and we have not acquired or come to understand very well people who exert that social leverage online in smaller quantities. You know, we haven't been able to scale that very large group of people who might be willing to leverage their communities they've already got created.
Yeah. So look, those people are mini celebrities, and you would manage them the way you manage a celebrity. It's relationships. It's having somebody who builds a relationship with them. It is, I don't think it scales. Um, in the video game space, anyone I know who's tried to do streaming, it's
Yeah,
all about
it's a
relationships.
fail. Yeah.
It's hire a team, go to the conferences, talk to someone, give them a good experience of working with you as a partner. Um, it's
Mhm.
probably not scalable in the way that, say, advertising to individuals is scalable.
So let me reframe my question for you. Um, the high level influencers, oh, I completely agree. It's not scalable and it's not working. Like those programs are washing at best, and most of them are being discontinued. My
Yeah.
question is there there are 40 million people in the US who create content and have between 1,000 and 10,000 followers. How do we address those people? How do we put them to work for us in social good?
The best answer I have for you is you're hoping to pick up some of them with your broad reach campaigns.
Mhm.
We've had some campaigns where we can't explain the jump in fundraising, and we sort of suspect that some influencers have been sharing it and we can't quite see it.
Right.
I think if you're going after young people with a fitness challenge that's difficult,
Mhm.
and suits sort of people who tend to be on these platforms, there's a
Yeah.
chance you pick up some high value people. Um, but reaching them is always, yeah, it's always a challenge. It's just like major donor fundraising. It's just like those high value people from in the corporate space and those
Yeah.
major donors. You just reaching them, it often takes a personal touch.
Yeah. Interesting. Um, could I ask you to go back a little bit and could you explain for the audience the motivations of Facebook to discontinue processing? Like, what was the technical reason that they wanted to stop doing that?
uh, Time spent by Facebook employees answering support questions
Mm.
and dealing with problems arisen by something which they created for free, essentially gave to the charity sector and to raise billions. And I think they got a bit tired and a bit weary of sorting out all the problems and hearing the negative feedback and maybe not hearing the positive feedback. Ultimately, it comes down to their own staff time.
Okay. And by moving the donation processing to third parties, that reduced that significantly, even though they're still
Mhm.
supporting challenges and groups.
Yeah,
Okay.
reduce their time handling queries like my donation wasn't processed, my friend tried to donate and the money is gone, I don't know where it is.
Got it.
Also, it took away the regulatory burdens because they don't have to stand over the income, someone else does.
Got
And
it.
there's all these checks you have to do when you're taking money online at scale. Um, I think the reason we know that is the reason they pulled out of Europe was because the data protection stuff and the regulations are so strong, and there's more regulations coming down the track, and
Mhm.
it seems that maybe PayPal or whoever the third parties were said we're not touching this, so they said okay, let's just cut it.
So number one, the US social good industry should not be afraid of Facebook making these changes, because it turns out that our audience actually would prefer, in many cases, to be on a third party platform to do those activities and simply be social on the social media platforms, correct?
Like 5 years ago, Facebook was more ubiquitous. When people were on there, there was no TikTok. Instagram was smaller. It was the dominant one. And so many audiences have moved away from Facebook, where Facebook's not their number one anymore.
Yeah,
And, maybe older audiences, I don't know, the trendy people the trendsetters are gone from Facebook. That's not the younger people who want to be at the front and they want to be where it's
yeah,
happening. They're gone somewhere else.
yeah.
And if you are just focused on just focused on Facebook fundraising, you're missing huge chunks of audiences who
Got it.
don't want the journey you're offering them. And people are turning around and going, "Oh, these challenges, no one wants to do this challenge anymore." No, they want to do the challenge, but they don't want the fundraising journey you're giving them. Um, Probably because they don't want their friends to know they're actually on Facebook. They're just on there checking news and checking some obscure groups and some sort of
My
niche.
grandma. They're checking on grandma.
Yeah, they're checking
Yeah.
to see what's happening with
Yeah.
some with their auntie and their uncle or whatever.
Yes, yes, that's right. So, and I guess, so you could run the same challenge on three different platforms, and the normalization point is the third-party platform, right? That's where the data comes together and it becomes easy for the nonprofit to manage. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, you need to create a third party, which also makes it easy for people to fundraise. So
Yeah,
going back to what Facebook did well at the start, makes it easy to set up a fundraiser. You get to the end of the journey quickly. It's not clunky, it's not slow, it loads fast. And what we've been doing is driving people from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter to one website. Um,
hmm,
and then you have the kind of the best of both worlds because you still have the
yeah.
Facebook audience.
And you
Um,
also have email recruitment happening as well from the social good. So it's all normalizing inside the third-party platform.
yeah, you've got more data.
Yeah,
You get a much higher average raised. People raise much more when they're given their own fundraiser. They're slightly less likely to fundraise. You get less people to actually fundraise because it's a little bit more difficult, but you
mhm,
raise more money overall because we've seen on average people raise $250 instead of $150 on Facebook.
got
So it's
it.
a big difference.
Interesting. So how big a miss is it for US nonprofits to pull back from social media fundraising in general? How big a mistake is that?
I mean, where else are you going to acquire people? Um, People still spend an average of 2 hours and 24 minutes a day on social. That's the average worldwide. It's an astoundingly large
Yeah,
time. It's
yeah,
1/12 of their day. So I don't know where else you turn for acquisition. I don't know where, if you're talking about getting people to join your organization, acquisition at scale, I don't know where else you go. So it probably maybe you can stabilize and stay the size you are, but if you want to grow, I think you have to be on there. I think you have to be flexible as well. I think you have to
okay,
go, okay, there was a model here that worked. It's not working, but let's not go, social challenges are dead. They aren't. And maybe the exciting thing is there's overlooked audiences like those men on Twitter.
yeah,
And there's men over the age of 40 who are on there, and there's a lot of them in the US, and they haven't
yeah,
been asked.
yeah,
So our first campaign in Ireland, we spent $5,000 on media and raised 110 on the first Twitter ads for a running challenge in Ireland, and it just flew.
wow.
Um, yeah,
What
so
was the mission? I'm curious. What was the mission on that one?
for a children's hospice.
Children's Hospice. Interesting, very interesting. Let me switch gears and ask you about, and I'm not sure what your experience will be in the UK, but here in the US, one of the challenges we run into is that different departments own the tools.
Yeah,
So development owns the third-party platform, but marketing owns the social media channels. How, in your experience, have you navigated that?
you need one person to be fully responsible for the advertising and the income. One of the things we do as an agency, we try and be responsible for the ads and the journey and the income at the end. And we say, ultimately, we're responsible for the bottom line and we'll give you guidance at each stage. There has to be somebody who's responsible. You can't have two teams who are separate and blaming each other if things don't go well. We've helped a lot of our kind of the fundraising people and the events people and the peer-to-peer people to actually run their own digital activity in some charities, which can be interesting.
Yeah. When the third-party platforms first came to the market, I was around, and it was shocking for the development team to suddenly have email marketing tools in their hands that were not controlled by the marketing department. And it feels like we're still, literally 20, 25 years later, we're still struggling with that. Now in the US, sometimes there's a chief marketing and development officer, and then that person has both teams reporting to them. Is that in your mind a fix for this problem or not?
Maybe. So we
Yeah.
still have the exact same problem in the UK. We've
Hmm.
peer-to-peer teams using the email marketing tools themselves because they don't have to go to the digital team internally. Um, I think the really big guys and the guys who've got this figured out get a journey that they ultimately automate as much as they can. So you get an email journey. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not exactly the email journey that you would do for each challenge, but it's proven. It looks good. It goes out on day one or whatever, and they automate that and use that for as many different challenges and events as they can. Like you have to have some things that are set in stone and there's processes for it, and you have to have some things that you can change and be flexible on. So you can change and be flexible on the concept, on the creative in the ads. You can change things on the ad side and try and have proven, whether it's email, SMS journeys, whatever they are, proven templates on your website. Some things that are set in stone, so you're not starting from scratch every time and trying to drag everyone up the hill.
Yeah. Um, one of the things she said to me prior to this was, it's not magic, it's just work. And you were talking about challenges and what makes them work. Can you talk a little bit more about that? You alluded to it earlier.
I think there's a sort of surprising effect when you like continue to have small learnings and you test things that are just working 10% better and a little bit better. And some of this is sort of cliche stuff you hear people in Silicon Valley say, but it is true. Just by paying attention, continuing to test things, those like 5% learnings really, really add up. If you get
Mhm.
10 of them over a year, it just makes an incredible difference. And that's how we've survived as an agency. We just kept learning, kept reviewing, taking unexciting but solid learnings forward. Um, and there isn't, I don't think there's any other way. Um, and part of that then is being open-minded enough and still putting the work in to do those tests and then follow up in the review and then really think about the conclusions. Um, but it's just such an important part. Like,
It's just work. Yeah.
yeah, and the results seem magical at the end.
Yeah.
Um, but like I've been doing this since 2011. I've been banging my head against the wall of digital acquisition for 13 years. And there's still things that people said to me in 2011 and 2012, still like things I learned about donation forms that are still with me and are still carrying us forward. So you just have to really get in there, put yourself on the hook, pay attention to the details, pay attention to what's happening, and try and keep those learnings then when you get them, that there's a centralized place somewhere the rest of your team know what happened and that you're all kind of moving forward together with those learnings.
Yeah.
And that's when the magic happens.
Give me an example of an unexpected learning that you've had in the last 15 years, like something you didn't see coming.
I'll give you one of the last week if you want.
Okay. A
So
fresh one. Yeah.
we have a supplier who said really pushed us hard on adding self-donation ask on the website. So when someone was setting up the registering for their fundraiser, they were like, get them to basically say to make the first donation themselves. And it's a popular thing, you've seen it.
Mhm.
But they added like $20 will raise this for this particular cause, $30 will raise this. So there was some nice cause wording, some language stuff. Um, and we said that definitely won't work because we know when people leave the Facebook group, they just want to sign up and that's it. Anything gets in their way is bad. And we ran the test on Facebook and Instagram. And we were kind of right on Facebook, but they were completely right for the Instagram people. So
Interesting.
we were both on the right tracks and our points. And we'd had this big argument. And then we were like, oh, we were both kind of right. So we listened to them. We ran a test that we didn't believe in. And we learned something that's going to improve, I think, every Instagram challenge we run moving forward, even
That's,
though we only did it because the partner kept insisting on it.
but it didn't work on Facebook.
Not quite, but not quite, but the results aren't in. So
Yeah.
the two audiences were coming from different places. One of them was coming from a group, and one of
Yeah.
them was coming really direct from an ad. So they
Yeah.
were kind of in different places.
Yeah.
People in the group had already seen other people. They'd already got a sense of social proof and seen, okay, there's people doing this. I see what it is. I see what it's about.
Mhm.
Um, so it's the psychology is so interesting as you go through those journeys.
Yeah. I wonder if you could comment on direct response acquisition versus social media acquisition. Direct response acquisition here in the US, the rule of thumb is it's going to take me 2 to 3 years to pay back the cost of that acquired donor. Um, And my experience is that social media fundraising is really it's really victimized by that 2021 success that seemed, magical, to use your words, that we couldn't explain. It was just money falling from the sky. It was great. And even 5 years ago, when it first started, there was so little investment, and yet the money came. And so now that it's a more mature tool, we seem to discount it inappropriately. It's a great acquisition tool, particularly when compared to direct response acquisition. Can you talk about that from your perspective?
So I think the direct response approach, you're getting people who are more cause motivated, and charities have learned a huge amount over the last 40 years about how to get the lifetime value up for those people. It's a science. A lot of people have put a lot of time into perfecting that. With the challenges stuff we're doing, I feel like a lot of our charities don't have products and journeys and, a way to make their lifetime value go up over time.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the things they offer people when they sign up, like, oh, you did this running challenge. Do you want to give us a monthly donation? It's not what they want. It's not a journey that they actually want.
Mhm.
So a lot of charities have these people who've come in via social media, done a challenge, and they haven't done much else for them. Um, as I said, probably because they haven't got the journeys in place. So they're only measuring income in month one. Um, and you're right, like we expect and we've come to expect profitability in month one, certainly on month two. Um, and it's probably short-sighted. You did an amazing webinar with the guys from the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. They've pretty
Oh,
much proved like if it
yeah.
looks like $100,000, it's actually $140,000. And people who come in via events do more events down the line. You just have to track it and
Yeah.
really pay attention.
Yeah. It's weird to me that we don't track it, because tracking it's not that hard now. It's almost like we don't want to know. Like, we're so focused on immediate revenue within channel that we're not following the individual, even though we make big noise about it. Have you seen that as well? Or do you guys do a better job than we do tracking it?
I don't think so. There's a lot of, we didn't quite get around to that.
Yeah.
We've been guilty of making our clients really, really busy, doing fitting in as many of these profitable challenges as we can in the year.
Yeah.
One ends, the next one starts, and it's go, 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 go. And no one ever sits down and does like 3 year analysis. Um,
Yeah.
but let's put a positive spin on it. Anyone who's done this stuff can pull all the email addresses for all of the people who've they've brought in via social challenges since 2021, and they can run it to their database and see what they've done since.
So there are a couple of technology companies out there that help acquire email addresses and contact information from participants in challenges. How necessary is that? Should the average nonprofit consider those services? Uh, yes or no? And then, how does your company interact with those people if they're in place?
We in the UK and Ireland, it's very effective to give people a free incentive upfront.
Mhm.
That is different in the US, a different mindset in the US, and it doesn't work in the same way. Over here, it's really effective, and it means you get their email, probably their
Right.
phone and their address up front. And people are when someone's getting a t-shirt for free, they're really happy to give you their details.
Got it.
So we get like 70% opt-in to email, 30% opt-in to phone, 40% opt-in to direct mail, and it's a fantastic bonus
Mhm.
if you've got 5,000 people do the challenge, you leave with 3,500 people on your email address who you can market to in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's worthwhile. You can collect email addresses pretty easily with Facebook lead ads. Uh,
So you're talking about in the UK, you found it very effective to offer a premium. When people redeem it, they give their contact information in high percentages. The Give Panel and Good United services, how do they play in? Or, I mean, are they recommended in your, do you recommend using a service? And if so, in what situations would they be helpful?
so we have plenty of clients who work with both. I think those tools um, fill a lot of the gaps that Facebook left behind when they created this fundraising tool that had no back end and was just the front end brought in a lot of money, and then there was no way to sort that out.
Yeah.
Um, so they initially really filled that gap where you could actually process the donations, put them in your database yourself, in your database in an orderly fashion.
Got it.
And those organizations have really impressively added to their tools. They've added features like t-shirt registration forms, they've added Messenger, they've added various things that help you communicate via email, via Messenger. The upshot is when you're running the campaign, you have a dashboard where most of the data for the campaign is in one place, and you can actually see on
Yeah,
Thursday, we have $100,000,
got it.
um, instead of just kind of guessing in the dark.
Yeah. So they're managing the more of the relationship inside the channel. Facebook is the only one they're really active on at any scale. Is that correct?
I think that's very fair, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas your role is to acquire them and push them to that third party platform where they can be managed in the social good organization's more typical way. Would that be true?
Yeah, so we have still have really profitable challenges that are on Facebook and run via those platforms. But it's because the audience for those charities, one of them is a dementia charity or Alzheimer's charity in the UK.
Mhm.
Their audiences are older females, 55 to 64 predominantly. They're still on Facebook. That's
Yeah,
still where their friends are. That's still where they socialize with the people they know. And they're still really successful. Um, but it's the audiences that have forced us to have to do things, to create new models, create new journeys, and use new platforms.
yeah. Interesting. And those audiences are younger men, or men in general, younger men, younger people,
Yeah.
um, who
If you
are
do
pulling us.
if you do a squats challenge, okay, you're going to sign up people who are aware of the trends that are happening, particularly younger females who are very focused on, going to the gym and health and fitness. Those people are gone. They don't want to be. If they're on Facebook, they are on there for a smaller amount of time.
Yeah,
Um, and they don't want, that's not where they want to connect with people. Their life is on Instagram stories or on messaging apps. That's where
yeah,
they spend their time connecting with people.
yeah,
So you need to give them a link on their own page and a link that they can go and share where they want to share it.
yeah, where they
Um,
want to share it. I think that's it. They all are on, like, even my own children, they spend an inordinate amount of time on Discord, you know?
yes.
That's where they go. That's where their communities are. I'm curious if you had to,
Can I
go
add
ahead.
something there? One of the most surprising learnings, for a long time, we were like, younger people are bad fundraisers. And the biggest surprise has been the average raised.
Yeah,
I bet your kids are savvy. If they decide to do a challenge, they will be really good at promoting it. Then maybe they'll share an Instagram story every day of them doing the challenge. They've got really good reach, and they'll probably do it well. Um, and what we've seen is they fundraise and a lot more than we expected.
yeah. I think we underestimate those generations, the younger generations. They seem incredibly generous of their time and their money.
Yeah, but you have to make it suit them. You have to understand what they want, and you have to frame it in a way that it appeals to them. If it doesn't, there's a scroll on.
Yeah. So I want to go back to organizational structure for a second. If you could have your way, if you could tear down your favorite nonprofit and rebuild the marketing and revenue departments in a way that would suit constituents, what would you do different from what exists today?
I think whatever it looks like, you have to break down the sort of silos of different teams who own different events.
Mhm.
Um, Having a central team who own the budgets and make sort of the product decisions, and then other teams who execute, I think is it. I think having someone who kind of owns strategy and calendars in the middle, and then everyone else kind of works off them and whatever they're executing. I think that's the key. Um,
So what you're suggesting is that the problem is that too many people own the strategy.
yeah, and own the budget, and the budget and strategy ownership is spread out everywhere, and everyone's making their own decisions, and you know, you end up on a call with two different people from one organization who both reached you in different
Uh-huh.
ways, both thinking
Uh-huh.
different things, and you're like, where is this going to end up? Like, this could end up anywhere.
And so much conflict too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now that's very interesting. This is the first time that has become clear to me. That's the problem. Too many people own the strategy
yeah,
instead of just execution. And that strategic job is the big job.
yeah, yeah. And if you've one team who just they're responsible for that, and then they're responsible for ultimately maximizing the return across the organization. And yeah,
Mhm.
everyone else is
So
implementing.
we have people owning strategy who also own the technical expertise, which probably influences what they think is most important.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. Wow.
And the second thing I would do, without a shadow of a doubt, is I would take 7.5% of the budget and spend it on innovation. So have some small team over in the corner who have 5% of your budget for the year for fundraising
Mhm.
and can spend it on things that don't have to make money straight away. Because the need to, you must make money straight away is what removes all the risk taking, all the creativity, all the innovation. And I can never believe how little innovation there is within the charity sector.
Yeah.
And it's the reason we don't grow the way other sectors do. And what other sectors like technology have realized is if you just give a kind of a wildly creative group of people 5% of the budget and let them do whatever with it, then in the long run it pays off.
You have an Instagram campaign. Could you put it on screen and walk us through it?
This is the campaign which is live in September. This is
Yep.
the before it went live, we had £178,000 in the UK. It's for a baby loss charity to walk 100K. All of their fundraisers are aged 25 to 44.
Okay.
And this organization it's done much better by moving people to a web platform rather than Facebook. This particular campaign, this is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok working together. All four are delivering income, and it's going to be 700 grand roughly.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you said you're running this across platforms. So you have it on Instagram, you have it where else?
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Okay.
and Twitter with
Okay.
different journeys running for each one. So we're still using a Facebook group and driving them from the group to here. But on the other platforms, it's actually just there's no group, so it's direct to the website.
Okay.
And we're
In-
figuring out what works for each platform.
Interesting. It feels so right to me to put it out everywhere and have it normalized in the third party platform so that we can manage the relationships a little better. And 2 years ago, I think we were saying something entirely different. We were saying keep them in channel. And it seems different now. What do you think?
So the keep them in channel was ultimately the ultimate learning there was make it easy for them. So don't make
Mhm.
them leave the app. And we drove a lot of that. We used Facebook's user experience like, expertise. I always say that they're world
Yeah.
class, the best people in the world. You're just using their skills. Everything loads instantly in the app. But ultimately, it's just about making it easy. And if you can have a website look, this is the mobile version here. This
Yeah.
communicates so much, so clearly. The registration form is really clean and crisp, and then they're dropped straight onto their fundraiser. If you think about it in terms of time from clicking on an ad to being on your own fundraiser that says Katrina's fundraiser,
Mhm.
like this is comparable to the Facebook journey. Like we can now get a website to do, let's say it takes 30 seconds on Facebook within the app. We're pretty close to that now, um, with some of these third party platforms.
Yeah.
And that's the key. And I was guilty of thinking that it was the app was staying in app was the magic part. Really, it is just making it easy.
Yeah. Do you think that, for example, I use a password piece of software to manage my passwords and my credit cards. So now when I go to make a donation on my phone, it's not a matter of trying to cut and paste my credit card number. I open the app and it pastes it in there. Do you think that's had an impact on
Definitely do.
users?
I definitely do. It's just made it so much easier. Like that's actually a really good point. I should start saying that more because it was two thumb taps to make a donation on Facebook when you got in
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Now it's getting close with Google Pay. It's getting close with Apple Pay.
yeah, yeah,
Might be three or four thumb taps. That's a really, really good point, actually. So it's easier for the user and the fundraiser and the donor. These guys are very close to my heart. A tiny domestic violence charity who approached us at an event like 5 years ago. We've made millions for them. They've grown as a team. There's one woman in there who's just fought so hard all along the way. They were kicked off Facebook in July. They didn't want to leave Facebook. They were really happy with it. They made about €100,000 per challenge. They're our smallest client. they had to make the investment in this third party platform fundraising. We put the target at 75. It's really 100. And that's the
Yeah.
true target. They're at 61 today. They're going to finish on at least 150, if not 170. So
Wow.
yeah, like for this organization, that's a huge deal. That's like enough money to pay for two people who answer the phones full time. And it's just it's beautiful to see. It's working better because they've been kicked off Facebook.
I want to ask you to do one more thing. Could you share the graph again that we started with?
Yeah.
And we're going to put all the links to these materials. I'll figure out how to get a link to this and in the show notes. But could you just orally walk through this graph, what it is?
So it's in blue, the income we as an agency have raised for our clients in the UK actually on Facebook. So that's each year, that's the Facebook income. It's gone up and then it's dropped down.
Mhm.
Um, but the primary reason is because we discovered along the way, first of all with Instagram and then direct from Facebook groups, that certain audiences were really happy to fundraise on a website, and actually it worked better for younger audiences and certain male audiences. And we've been moving more and more to websites as we've gone on and as we encountered the issues with Facebook fundraising tools. Um, so the future for us is going to be more websites. We'll still be using Facebook ads, but I think the vast majority of the income we'll be raising will be on third-party
Yeah.
platforms.
So what we're looking at is a graph that runs from 2020 to 2023, shows the relative fundraising on a third-party platform versus Facebook. And there's a dramatic, overwhelming shift that happens between 2020 and 2023 that shows a diminishment of Facebook fundraising and an increase of the fundraising on third-party platforms. But in this case, it is all supported by social media activity in one form or another. In this case, driven by GYSS and Adrian O'Flynn's company to get it done. So that's pretty impressive, I gotta say. Adrian, thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to ask you to come off screen so I can thank you without the
Sure.
video. Adrian, founder of GYSS, thank you for sharing your knowledge so generously. We want you to come to the US and we want you to work with all our social good organizations, and we'll try and behave because I understand Americans can be difficult sometimes. So we're going to do our best to be good. So you'll come over and help us.
Thank you very much. Well, look, it's very exciting. I think there's real opportunities, and we'll be over.
I will put in the show notes the graphics that we have been sharing, and also links to the campaigns that Adrian is supporting right now. So folks, there you have it. Someone who's already experienced the pain and the pleasure of Facebook fundraising. He's made his way through changes we didn't see coming and changes we fear are coming, already having been there and done that. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you with Adrian, or we'll answer your question directly if we're able.